Good afternoon and welcome to this week's 2-minute warning feature interview series, where every week the Gulf Intelligence Energy Transition Dialogues takes a deeper dive into some of the trends globally as well as regionally, advancing the energy transition agenda and hopefully and perhaps even accelerating it as things move forward. We're honored to be joined today by Dr. Pablo Izquierdo, Senior Manager, Energy, Auditing and Consultancy for the Smart for Power company, and also formerly a Senior Director at Dubai Carbon. Pablo, welcome to the table.
Hello, how are you, son? Very good talking to you. Yes, thank you for the invitation.
Pleasure. Pablo, we couldn't kick off a conversation on this subject of energy transition without starting with the big news in Abu Dhabi over the last week, where Masdar and the company called TAQA, which is the Abu Dhabi National Energy Company, in partnership with France's EDF and Jinko Power, announced that they will develop the world's largest solar power plant with a capacity of 2 gigawatts. I mean, I know we love to have the largest, the biggest, but we seem to be continuously hitting some new records with renewables and the energy transition. What is your views on this project and what is your outlook for it?
Yeah, well, the largest, the biggest, as you say, but even the cheapest, which is also very important, right? So yeah, the definitely is very good news. Is another milestone, and is part of an integrated strategy on the UAE towards kind of renewable and clean energy. Definitely, this milestone, as you say, is like a 2 gigawatt solar PV plant that is going to be built in Abu Dhabi, and is definitely going to give a very big boost to the Abu Dhabi capacity and to the UAE in general. The milestone is, I think, is the 1.3. What is the price for 4.3 fields, something like that, which is like extremely cheap.
4.97 per kilowatt.
Yeah, that's the cheapest. I mean, that is also
that's dirhams. Yeah, that's dirhams. 1.35 cents.
Yes. That's those are the very lowest prices that they have actually been announced, and that is part of the stability of the region. I mean, technology plays a very important role on that. Obviously, we can see like the prices of solar energy have been actually falling. But
why are we in this region able to get that sort of basement bargain price that others in the world don't seem to be able to get to?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, is stability, legislation stability, financial stability. I think all these elements in such long-term contracts, I think getting security in the framework, not just the technology, as we were saying, but the framework around it, all the economic and financial elements and legal elements to a deal like this, it's actually very, very important. So you can have those.
How about the land? Is the land really cheap? Is that helping?
I don't know exactly the deals about that, but probably that's also facilitated by the vast amount of land that is available as well here and probably that can also help, definitely. Yeah.
It does seem like a continuous ability to reach another low price. What does that set for others in the world that are trying to develop similar projects? If we're hitting these low prices here, does it set it as a benchmark, or it just stands unique to this market?
I think it's a benchmark is a good word for it, but unfortunately I think that it needs to have it's an aspirational benchmark, let's put it like that. Okay, so it's like these prices and these values, everyone would like to have them, but they need to have, as I say, the technology will play a big role, and they can probably get same technology, but if you install the same elements into a different location, then those will be like a little bit not reaching to the same discount prices that we are seeing here. There was some of my friends, when I was talking with them that they work in that business, they say like everyone is asking, no, they are tendering, and when they are actually getting the prices back, they say, no, I want the Abu Dhabi or the UAE prices actually. So that is very difficult to get, honestly, because of
But of
that.
course, this is an international consortium. You've got
Yes.
EDF from France, you've got the local companies, Masdar and TACA. What's their sort of win-win? What do they both bring to the table?
I think technology. TACA, obviously, in Abu Dhabi, the legislation requires that the local company owns a majority stake on that. So that is necessary to maintain. I mean, it's obviously a strategic asset, obviously. So the technology, the manufacturers, the expertise on the EPCs and the local installation, the legislation, the finance, all those elements. That is where it makes, as you say, like is the benchmark, but it will be like an aspirational benchmark for probably for years to come. But you never say never in this world, because it continues record after record breaking, right? It is, I think, the largest, or it will be the largest single site as well, like with 2 gigawatts is actually going to be the single solar plant is going to be a record. We like that around here, don't we? But yeah, that's
when you look at a project of this scale, clearly it has been in the planning for some time. It would have been on the table well before COVID, but nonetheless they proceeded to announce it at this time in the midst of all of this uncertainty. What does that indicate to you in terms of the ability to finance and move such massive projects forward in this window, not post-COVID, but certainly with COVID and all of the economic malaise at the moment?
Yeah, I think that is part of an overall strategy. I mean, obviously, as you say, that has been on the table, and there are probably kind of future deals. If you see like the Dubai Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid solar park, that has been announced and is moving little by little progressively as well. So they keep on announcing these deals. Why? Because, well, the COVID is a very big bump on the road, definitely. But what is this compared to the bigger the bigger picture and the strategic views that the UAE, Dubai have for the 2020? Back in a few years, it would seem like very far away, but now we are on it. And then the 2030s and 2050s, or even the 2071, right, for the 100-year anniversary of the UAE. So there is many. I think that is driven by a long-term view, which it can be twisted slightly due to the kind of the current situation, as you say. But yeah, definitely that is something of that part, and that talks about the supply side of things in the energy. But yeah, I think that we cannot forget about the demand side of things, which is very important as well. Energy efficiency and all these kind of things. They also
without these massive players, obviously UAE national company, EDF obviously big company. How difficult is it at this time to get deals financed, renewable energy transition deals?
Well, I can tell you a little bit from some of the projects that we finance from Smart for Power with the backing of ENGIE lately, and we are actually being a little bit more cautious with the investments that we do, but we still do, because again, it's all about the long term. For the solar industry, I get that it will still be bigger. I'm a little bit kind of less aware of that, the higher level investments, but at the level that I work more on a daily basis, I can see that is still, because yeah, I don't know if you've seen some of these kind of views, like the COVID is a small wave that it will come and it's got like big problems, right? But the climate change behind it is actually even a bigger wave. But since it's behind and is farther, people might not be that aware about it. But it's definitely coming. So that's.
I mean, it does strike me that this time period hasn't disrupted. I mean, it might have obviously stalled, delayed a little bit, but the momentum of the energy transition feels like it's surviving through this great shock.
I agree. I because I think that is the need. that we have to do it. I mean, it's definitely something like everyone is struggling with their energy bills. Everyone is struggling with the transition towards kind of a cleaner energy. We have to do it. There was the mentality. The mentality was there. The tools were there. Many of the tools we discussed back in the previous webinars about the future. What is there? It's true that there are many things kind of beyond the horizon at the moment, but there are also several tools and several things that we can do at the moment that that will actually help us to go and to sort out some of these elements, or contribute at least to mitigate these climate change and problems like that.
Also, in the last week, we've had the big announcement out of Europe of the European stimulus package, over $1 trillion. A good section of that budget has been allocated towards the green economy and the energy transition. What is your thoughts on that particular outlook for Europe to be a leader in this space, and that kind of budget available?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was the right decision. This is what I was saying is we need to fight the first wave about the COVID, but we need to think about even kind of the longer term and the longer view. So if you don't, and that is again what I was saying about the tools are available and some of these elements. So the green stimulus, they are not thinking we'll pour money somewhere without knowing exactly where it's going to be or what it can come out of it.
It does look like the Europeans are a bit wiser in where they're spending their stimulus. The Americans seem to be throwing it a little bit at the wall, whereas the European one looks a little bit more structured for the long term.
I think so. I think that is a little bit what we are seeing, that they are trying to focus a little bit more on the trusted and the things that they have been tested, even so slightly. I mean, there has been energy directives in the European Union for a long time already, so they know that they achieve energy efficiency, that also gives them energy security, and that is a good thing for them, that they protect them from the price variations up and down in the market as well. So all these things are the reason for justifying that, well, let's invest the money into those areas, energy efficiency in buildings and transportation and in all those areas.
Well, if you're going to spend this kind of money, most likely it's going to go into infrastructure, and if it's a stimulus package, it create jobs and so on. And if you're going to spend it, you got to spend it in areas where it delivers over the long term. Otherwise, you'll just get yourself locked into another generation of coal-fired power plants, or building highways and more roads, and that will dictate the pathway forward versus the new pathway. So this is the time. It's actually a unique opportunity, these kind of budgets, to accelerate the energy transition, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. You have to use such huge amounts of money actually to invest in this infrastructure. So yeah, you need to be wiser about where are you going to spend it. If you use the kind of the old technologies like the coal and some of the kind of existing plants, it's true the infrastructure is there. You can be tempted actually to go for that because you see, oh, they are good prices, it's trial and tested. But at the same time, yeah, if you think about the potential threats that are coming in the future about this climate change, then it's much wiser actually to do it into these technologies, which you have started to test in the last years. You are realizing, well, it's not that bad. We are seeing these prices that are achieving very, very competitive rates here in the UAE, but also kind of in Europe. You can get also good deals. So yeah, it's definitely the right movement. And as you say, I mean, let's see if the COVID is a blessing in disguise in that aspect. Like at least it's a shaker for that element, and then it made it faster, the transition, right? So that's
it did seem to me like we went into the COVID, I mean, let's say the era before the COVID period, China was very strong and dominant in the energy transition, renewable space. It seemed to play increasingly a leading role, whereas America was a little bit behind the curve,
Mm.
Europe a little bit less. But where do you see that dynamic, the world, like world leading in the area of the energy transition and the new technologies? Does China have a big advantage?
Um, well, I think that one of the things that we can see is that yes, there are kind of new technologies coming on that one. You see the biggest manufacturer for some of the renewables, etc. But there are also many also tested technologies. I'm more familiar with kind of the demand side elements, and we see like many of the energy efficiency areas, for example, that we are working on. They are kind of European technologies. There are no Chinese, well, they are there, they are more manufacturing, but more of them are actually very well tested technologies from Europe. I mean, States, you cannot discard it, obviously, but yeah, I think that from what we are seeing, some of the solutions that we see, they come from European manufacturers.
So
And
the
they are
model is still the technology, the intellectual property is still
property.
sort of European American, but
Yeah.
China is the still the manufacturer in that.
Yeah, I think I think that is what we are seeing. Some of those technologies still operate under that paramount that paradigm that you are saying. Yes.
Here back to the Gulf, Pablo. The obviously we talked a little bit earlier about the UAE and Abu Dhabi in particular, which has been a leader in this space in the region with the arrival of Irina many years ago and Masdar even before that. What does the rest of the region look like vis-a-vis its commitment and progress in the energy transition?
Um, Well, and the other big player that we cannot go without naming is definitely Saudi. Saudi is actually moving very, very fast on that on those elements. You see, like the equivalent of Masdar, but on an even larger scale is Neom, right? So that is already happening, and they start having kind of digging their foundations for their future sustainable city over there. There are equivalent government bodies, let's put it like that. For example, with the when Dubai started the energy services elements as part of their energy strategy, they established Etihadesco here in Dubai. There is a similar body here in Ras Al Khaimah, and in Abu Dhabi is coming as well. And then in Saudi we do have Tarshid as well. So it is part of the public investment fund, which definitely they are kind of putting money into these kind of long-term investments, and they are actually coming forward with these initiatives. So definitely Saudi
What about
is
with
a big
all of the
player.
austerity now in Saudi Arabia with the drop in oil price, which is a critical part of the government revenue? Are you confident that the momentum will sustain behind these NEOM and such massive projects?
From what we are seeing in some of these areas in the energy efficiency, they are still kind of pushing ahead with these plans. NEOM is probably a little bit of a longer term, and but yeah, I think that I'll feel confident that they will be moving into this one, because it's even Aramco has been saying it, like peak oil is kind of just around the corner, right? So it's
Certainly, peak oil demand seems to be
yeah.
with us.
So yeah, that is where they are kind of seeing, well, we need to think about the future, and that is the time to actually think about that. So where you put the money again in the long term, well, I think that energy efficiency, sustainability is definitely the way forward.
When you consider those two things, energy efficiency, consumption, on the demand side, and then, the supply side, obviously the project we talked about earlier in Abu Dhabi, the world's biggest and so on. But it seems to be the biggest win in the immediate term is on the consumption side, on the demand side, where,
Yeah.
we're building glass skyscrapers and all of these kind of the built environment seems to be needing a serious overhaul. Where is that in its progression?
Well, I think nowadays we are making the glass skyscrapers a little bit more efficient than we used to do. So there is a big change of that. So what we are seeing, for example, I'll start kind of a little bit in Dubai, for example. We are seeing they do have the green building regulations, the Al Safad program. They do have requirements to make the buildings more efficient. The levels that they do have in Abu Dhabi are similar as well with the Estidama program that they are actually looking forward to have built, because the building is going to be there hopefully for more than 50, 100 years. So whatever you build now hopefully will embed the regulation. So that will help on the demand. Also in this area, one of the things that we have to be particularly focused is on the people. Actually, the people have to be aware that whatever they do is gonna impact on the environment, on the energy they consume. 18 degrees is too cold. That is full stop. There is no, any thermostat that you see at 18 degree, just go to the middle of Europe in winter and then say, oh, it's cold. Why do you want to have that indoors? So definitely that is something to consider. But yeah, everyone is moving towards that, those on build and operate. And one of the things that we do is actually on the retrofit. Some of these elements of the buildings that were built a few years back and they are maybe not either built or operated as efficiently, we are trying to make them more efficient nowadays with through retrofit programs, as we were discussing. Some of those technologies that are available there from the European inventions manufactured in China and delivered here, they can actually be a big win situation. You can optimize how the chillers run, how the air conditioning units work. So it is a
I mean,
very
is it still, or is this an opportunity perhaps to advance the model a bit, that there's too much optionality not to do this sort of retrofit? This, in Europe, a lot of progress is made because the legislation demanded that you change your building codes and your car consumption levels and all of these things. They just didn't happen by magic. Do we need to consider a bit more robust sort of legislative requirement to comply in the Gulf, do you think?
That could be, but if nothing else, just from the point of view of kind of economic incentives, I mean, it makes sense financially to retrofit most of the buildings that we
Look
see.
at my DWA bill every month. I mean, it's significant.
That is something, and you see, I mean, when the prices are low, and some of the countries in the Gulf still have a little bit of relatively low prices for electricity, that makes it a little bit longer. But it's not ridiculously longer either. So it's like, okay, how can you compare some of these investments? Put it into the stock market with all the risks that it has, or someone will do the retrofit for you and will guarantee in the next coming 5, 7, 10 years that you are actually going to get this return of investment. That is as safe as it gets, honestly. So it is a possibility. It is there and it is happening. Yeah.
When you think of the region and globally, obviously solar power tends to dominate in its as the fuel of the transition, but wind, of course, is also significant in Europe in particular, and hydrogen is now emerging as a very significant transition fuel. What else are we not seeing, and particularly regionally, is there opportunities to do other things that is unique to the Gulf region?
Well, I think that wind has been trial a couple of times, or at least not trial, but kind of studied kind of the availability of wind, and is not particularly, I mean, maybe kind of the south of Oman could be a little bit better on that front, etc. But it's tricky. There is not that much wind availability. The things that we have tested a couple of times here as well are some of these more outlying technologies, like trying to get a little bit of geothermal. Is there anything? So I know that Mazda has been trialing that and trying to, at least, as I say, seeing the resource availability. But honestly, we don't need to look very far. I mean, just look up. There is plenty of sun. There is plenty of opportunity there. So we can
big
get
oil
that.
well in the sky called the sun.
Yeah, That is, and then if you combine that with the hydrogen that you've mentioned, I see hydrogen more like a vector of energy. Actually, it's if you
Do
have
we have any natural advantage around hydrogen here?
Not as natural, but we do have the sun. So with the green hydrogen that, for example, DIWA is investigating, then I think that we are in a good possibility because that will open up not just for electricity, maybe electric vehicles, but maybe you can even have for other transportation methods, and it kind of opens up a little bit more of more doors in order to expand that energy transition into other sectors of the economy rather than just the power generation or the transport. So I see that is the potential way forward on that topic.
We interviewed the managing director of the German Energy Agency last week for the 2-minute warning program, and she was talking about the opportunity, or interested in the opportunity of exploring collaboration with some of the Gulf countries on hydrogen, where hydrogen would be produced here and exported into Europe. Does that seem like a model that makes sense to you?
I think so. Again, I mean, it can be, again, the IP, the intellectual property might be from them, and then we do have the resources. So yeah, I will put them in touch with DIWA.
Yeah, well, it does seem they're quite keen that the importance of an international global marketplace for hydrogen. You can't just develop it in Germany, right?
Mm. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, again, that is part of the wider transition on that element. You need to have. Why are everyone? Not everyone needs to have its own manufacturing, production, etc. If you can actually get a little bit of a bigger view and just make it where it's more efficient to make it and then transport around, and yeah, all the technologies have been moving on that along those ones. It's similarly as well to the and I know that you like the topic of the carbon credits, for example.
Yes.
Why are you polluting into one side and then on the other? So, for example, you could get, well, if it is not efficient to produce it here, let's make the savings elsewhere, and then we just kind of incorporate the environmental damage as a cost into the carbon elsewhere. So that is a little bit of the model that it could be operated as well.
Well, as we come back to where we started, Pablo, the idea of coming out of at least the high level of crisis period of COVID, the second quarter, obviously we're still dealing with it. It's going to be with us for a while, but what do you think this opportunity, this time offers to the energy transition, and what would you be recommending if you were still a policy advisor?
What we are seeing, for example, is that for going over these COVID elements, we are seeing in general that most of the recommendations now we spend most of our time indoors. You see, we are in enclosed spaces, so the time that the energy that we are going to use to condition these spaces, and with the recommendation that are provided by the international bodies, that is going to increase the energy consumption. They are suggesting to get with more ventilation, more energy, less energy recovery to prevent the recirculation of the virus. They are increasing filters and increasing UV lamps and things like that. So one of the things that we have to do is actually to manage that potential increase of energy consumption. We need to be more energy efficient on that part, and then that is on the demand side. And then on the renewable, on the supply side, we still need to move forward. And luckily we are seeing that is actually in the right path. So hopefully the combination of both areas will actually work well.
It does seem like a moment in time in where, one of the biggest challenges for the energy transition, besides capital and technology, is habit and people. And
Yes.
that this is a window of opportunity to adjust habits when the consciousness level is elevated.
Completely agree. This is exactly what we were saying. Like if the people realize like these changes that we've been forced to undertake, and kind of working from home and well, living indoor, etc. All these areas, how do you actually cope with them? Well, if as one of these kind of changes that you are suffering, let's put it like that, then you can as well kind of think about these aspects and what am I doing that I could do differently in order to help the environment and myself. So that's definitely the right time.
Let's just wrap up, Pablo, with the over the horizon sort of look through our crystal ball. And what do you see over the horizon, whether it be 2021, 2022, that might be coming that will become a bigger part of our life?
Well, I think that is a little bit of a combination of the topics that we've discussed already. It will be a balance of more kind of conscious people using more efficient mechanisms kind of for energy efficiency indoors, on transportation, using more bikes, less private cars, hopefully not moving that much on the with the planes. We'll still need many of that infrastructure, but hopefully that will be more efficient. On the supply side, we'll see more renewable energy being generated, potentially kind of transform into hydrogen that can actually be like a vector and open up for expanding that transition into more areas of the economy. And yeah, hopefully that supply demand in the middle with the people actually acting consciously. I think that will be the solution for or if not the solution, part of it for the energy transition.
Well, it certainly would be nice to see a bike lane going up the Sheikh Zayed Road in Dubai, or something dramatic like that. It, as a very small thing, but nonetheless a very big signal that times are changing. Listen, we'll wrap up there, Pablo, the 2-minute warning interview. Thank you so much, Dr. Pablo Izquierdo, Senior Manager, Energy, Auditing and Consultancy at Smart for Power. It was great to have you on the show this week, and thank you for your time.
Pleasure talking to you, Son. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.